It's weird to have a family and then not. I'm talking about a step family for me, but put in the comments for some of you guys if had situations like that. I know that can come in all kinds of forms. So, my parents got divorced when I was like a toddler, maybe even earlier than that. I don't remember any time of us being like a whole family. And then my dad started dating when I was like 6 years old. I remember it was like T-ball time. They eventually got married, and I would visit my old man and her every other weekend. And she had two sons and a daughter, so those became my stepbrothers and my stepsister. And it's kind of a weird thing to 12, 13 days, you have this one life, and then after that so many days, for a couple days you would have this other family and this other life, and it was interesting. But you become really close with these people, of course. You spend time with people, you get to know them. And my one stepbrother Eric, he was really into like fish, and like he had like fish tanks and turtles and stuff. And I would show interest. And I remember when I showed up one weekend, I go up to the room that was like my assigned room, and there's this fish tank, and there was like a little note from him. He got it for me as a gift. So you spend a lot of time with these people, and you really get this affection for them. And my dad would take off a week from work every summer, and we would do something different each day of the week. So Monday we'd go to the Indiana Dunes, and we would take the wheels off these skateboards and put like a rope around, and we'd try to like skate or whatever, slide down the sand dunes. It wasn't very effective, but we tried our best or whatever. What else did we do? We went to the arcade one day. We'd go to the movies one day, and so on and so forth. And I would also go over and visit, their old man's house. Now this guy, like, he had a decent amount of money and nice pool, and we would do all kinds of stuff over there, play Sega. Um, had a like really nice basement, or whatever. But the guy was never home, so when anytime we went over there, it was just like we had the place to ourselves. Me, my stepbrother, and stepsister, whatever. But a situation then eventually happened where something happened where my mom called, and as soon as she started calling, my stepmom picked up the phone, and it was a misunderstanding. Of course, you guys know how the like kind of dynamics work with that. They're already not gonna like each other. And it caused like this big hoorah, like this big fight, this like whole situation. And my old man wasn't playing her talking bad about my mom. That was one thing he like kind of didn't put up with as far as whatever. And my stepmom, like me and my stepmom, like I know like other people have like a different kind of. I'll get back to that story, but people have like a different thing on it. And how she treated me. And I think she treated me fine. It was just different. When I was at home, I kind of, my mom wasn't very good at the disciplinary stuff. She just kind of let me do whatever. But when I was over there, if I was downstairs, because eventually, like, my room was downstairs and I shared it with my stepbrother because it was a nice room down there. And if I went upstairs and I didn't turn off the light, if she noticed it, down there doing laundry or something, she wouldn't just go turn it off. She'd come up and be like, hey, you got to go turn off that light, unless you're going to start paying, help paying the electricity bill around here. So, which is her right? A little disciplinary, and also, try to teach me a little something and kind of, help me learn the value of a dollar and little things like that. So, just people had different ways, and that was fine. But that whole blow up happened, and things were never the same between me and her. And I was at an age, I was too young to really have like the conversation of, hey, we've known each other for so long, we're family, we need to just get past this. And I guess, she did one time after a few weeks of like us walking around each other, not saying a word to each other. It's so weird to do that, to be in a house with someone and not speak to them. I remember being like downstairs and listening till wait till she went upstairs all the way into her room so I could, go to the bathroom, because that was so like it was so awkward for me. But she did like put on an olive branch one time where she like 'cause she used to make me breakfast in the mornings. She's like, hey, when you want me to make you something? I was in the gaming room, and I was just like, no, real quick, 'cause I just I was just so nervous about the whole situation. And I think about that all the time. I wish I was more capable of having adult conversations, And yes, I do agree that maybe she should have done like more of like just came in and like sat down and had a talk with her, like, hey Matt, I've known you since you were a little kid, you know, we've done all these things together, you know. It's a weird thing for me. I think back to that so much because it got to the point where my dad would drive 2 hours to go pick me up, and then he would, on the way back to his house, he would drop me off over at my cousin's house, and that's what I did during the weekends where I'm supposed to be spending time with him, because the situation was so awkward over there between us two. And I eventually, you know, I just kept doing that, and then eventually, I went to an all-boys school my freshman and sophomore year. Got great grades, right? There's no distractions, so that's all good. But you know, going to my cousin's house, I kind of had that, like, got a taste of, you know, a small town life and everyone knowing each other and girls and all that. You know, I'm going to an all-boys school. None of my friends went to the same school as me from grade school. They were all somewhere else. Everyone that went to the school came from like different towns. So, you know, my life was going to school, going home, doing my homework, and watching TV. You know, I had like no friends to hang out with except for when I would go to my cousin's house and hang out, and there'd be all these people hanging out, girls, you know, guys doing everything, you know, playing basketball, you know, frisbee, whatever, you know. It was just like it gave me a taste of that other life, and that's what I wanted. And then I fought for that with my mom, and I was trying to go over to my dad's house, you know, and go to school out. And this was like Frankfort, Illinois, and Lincoln Way is like, people that know, it's like for a guy like 16 years old, it's a good spot to go. You know, it was really really good area, good spot for that. So, you know, and I guess things were starting to go bad between my dad and her, and he's just like, I gotta wait till the right time to ask her. I gotta wait till the right time. They kept putting it off, and finally he, you know, called me one time. He's like, yeah, she said no, it's not happening. And, you know, and I thought, like, I was finally at that age where I was like, I think I can have the conversation with her now. You know, I'll go over there and be like, hey, you know, let bygones be bygones. You know, it's been so long. You know, this is one little argument, but you know, I didn't know that things were getting bad between them too. So my brother Trent stepped up to the game because he knew that, you know, he heard how disappointed I was with the situation. I went and moved with him, and I lived in Wisconsin for a year, for my junior year. And then I experienced all my first, you know, of like everything. You know, it was just like, it was a great year in my life. You know, I look back at it very fondly. Great suffered, but anyway, so things worked out where didn't work out for my brother and his family, where they had this business didn't work out, and they had to come back to Chicago to regroup. Well, at that time, my dad and my stepmom, they get divorced, and I ended up moving in with my dad then for my senior year, and we moved where my cousin lived at. So I ended up going to that town anyways. That like made me think of like that kind of life. But it's weird, you know. I never had another actual conversation with, you know, my two stepbrothers, that stepsister. Now, like, going some years back, you know, like Facebook friends and like, hey, how you been? But you know, that's not anything real. I mean, these are people that I really had affection for, that I really cared about, you know. And it's just like weird to have this whole, you know, step family, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. And you know, and I don't blame, you know, obviously relationships don't work out, and that's just how it is. But you know, I think about them. I think about them a lot. You know, I think about Eric. I think about Jeff. I think about Wendy, and I think about Debbie. You know, the stepmom. I think about, I wish I was capable of having a conversation with her. You know, and that things would have ended up just being okay between the two of us, but it didn't work out. Like, I don't even know if she's still alive. You know, like, that's how little I know. But all right, guys, that's all I got. Hope everyone has a good one. I'm about to get on a live stream. All right, later.